Tag, you're it. If you have silver hair. If you're one of my silver sisters, you're it. I tag you. Maryam Remias called me and said, hey, I got tagged in this. Do you want to do it with me? And I said, you bet I do. And here we are with the Silver Sister tag, the Going Gray tag. So if you've got gray hair, whether you're starting your journey or finishing your journey, well, I guess you never really finish your, well, you do finish your journey, but that's sort of macabre. Let's not talk about that. If you're just starting your journey to silver, if you're midway through your journey to silver, or if you're now completely silver, I tag you to join us. You are hearing my cat on the exercise wheel. Good kitty. Oh, is that in your way? I bought an exercise wheel for my cat a year ago, and he uses it like crazy. And you may hear meowing because he likes to announce it when he's using his wheel. Yeah, that's right. I know. Mom's making a video, so you got to say something, huh? You don't have gray. Well, you have one gray hair. But it has nothing to do with age, honey. And that takes us to the first question. The first question is, how old were you when you started going gray? Really? Yeah. You got your gray hair early. I got my gray hair early. My mother was a hairdresser back when I was a kid. Both my parents were hairdressers when I was a kid. And she swears that I got my first gray hair at age 4. I remember having enough gray hair at age 17 that I started coloring my hair. And I colored my hair from the time I was 17 until age 50. How old were you when you decided to transition? That's question number 2, and I just answered it. Actually, I didn't fully answer it. The seed was planted when I was in my 40s. I work as an actress, and a casting director said, if you've got gray hair, that would be really interesting in a younger woman, and a lot of casting people would be interested in casting you. I wasn't quite ready to make the decision, but that really got me thinking. I experimented with putting a gray color on my blonde hair and tinting it gray, but what happened was the gray kept washing out after a couple of washings, and it would be ash blonde. Not that there's anything wrong with ash blonde. It's a perfectly lovely color, but it wasn't what I was going for. So I finally reached the point where I bit the bullet, and I decided to do it by cutting my hair all off. That brings us to question number 3. Did you ask your hairdresser for help with the transition, or did you just go cold turkey? I did both. I lived in Arizona, and I had my hairdresser dye my hair gray. But as I said before, all of the gray sort of fell out of my hair and left it ash blonde. That's when I realized that I had to take it further than gray if I wanted to dye it gray. I went to during this time I had some life transition stuff, blah, 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 quit my job, midlife crisis, all those good things. And I moved back to California. My hairdresser, Nick Roth, I have known him for a gazillion years. I went to Nick and I said, cut it all off. It was already pretty short, so I wanted to have just an extreme edgy cut so that I didn't feel old and dowdy when I suddenly had gray hair. I wanted to feel hip and edgy. And it was my hair was thrashed anyway. So I cut it off in an extremely short haircut. In fact, shaved part way around, and had him bleach it out as pale a blonde as it could go, just as white as it could get. And then I took over from there. My very first YouTube video about gray hair, you saw the experiment that I kind of thought it was going to work, but I wasn't really sure it was going to work. But if it did work, I wanted to make a video of it so that in case it did, that information would be available to you. Because, gosh, when I was looking to go gray, I couldn't really find a whole lot of information on how to do it. I had been dyeing my hair red, and I really wasn't prepared for the grow out. I give massive props to any women who do the grow out. I think that has got to be emotionally really hard. And I just couldn't do it and be an actress, because they expect you to look exactly like your picture, and they expect you to be camera ready at all times. So that wasn't an option with my career. Boy, you're enthusiastic with that thing today, aren't you? Good exercise. I gotta go to the gym myself. So yeah, I kind of did it myself, right in front of you, but I did go to my hairdresser for the first step for that. Question number 4. What was the reaction of friends and family? Oh, I did not get a lot of support. My family was very supportive, but I don't have kids. I don't have a husband. I did have a boyfriend at the time who was not at all supportive and was very, very insulting with it, and I am well rid of him. I would have friends from high school, people that I barely even spoke to in high school, men that I barely spoke to in high school, would send me messages on Facebook telling me that I had to color my hair, that I really was doing myself a disservice, and that I needed to color it back. You know, they were all so kind in offering their opinions that I didn't ask for. But I said thank you very much and stuck with what I wanted. And nevertheless, she persisted. I have to get one of those t-shirts. So yeah, not a lot of support from friends. A lot of people were just like, what are you doing? That is so wrong. Stop that. Change it. Go back. But I just knew it was the right thing for me. Favorite thing about being gray? Standing out in a crowd. I like that. I have been called Unique Monique for as long as I can remember. Since the time I was just a child. Since the time I got my first gray hairs. I have been called Unique Monique my entire life. And being unique is sort of part of my identity. And I'm an actor. And I love standing out from the crowd. And also, as an actor, and I think all people do this, don't you? It's nice and people mean it in a complimentary way when they tell you you look like somebody else. But as an actor, every time they'd tell me I look like somebody else, it was somebody who was working in the business. And it's hard to establish yourself as a unique individual if there's already somebody who looks like you. With blonde hair, everyone told me I looked like Bridget Fonda. When I had black hair, people told me I looked like Courtney Cox. When I had red hair, people told me I looked like Marcia Cross. With gray hair, the only person I look like is Monique Parent. And that's what I really like about gray hair. It is the first time in my life that I've really been seen as uniquely individual and the only person who looks like me. Least favorite thing about being gray? I don't know that I have a least favorite thing about being gray. I'm really liking being gray. Sometimes you're just going to keep at that this whole video, aren't you, baby? Okay. Least favorite thing about being gray? I don't have a least favorite. A lot of people say that with gray hair, you're invisible. And with gray hair, you can be invisible, which is kind of nice. when I want to be invisible, I can be. Don't put any makeup on, put my hair in a ponytail, wear drab colors, I blend in, you don't notice me. But for the most part, I don't want to be invisible. I want to stand out. And gosh, I don't see a downside to being gray. I love being gray. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Question number 7. Do you receive a lot of criticism for your gray hair, and how do you deal? I got a lot of criticism for my gray hair when I first did it, and when people who were long accustomed to seeing me with blonde or red hair saw me with the gray hair, they were very resistant and criticized a lot. Now, never. I mean, sure, sometimes strangers on the internet, trolls and haters. Sometimes I'll have a video that gets reposted to Facebook and a lot of young people will see it, and I'll get a lot of comments from, young, heartless, mostly men, saying, gosh, if I woke up next to that, I'd chew my arm off to get away from it. First off, honey, you're not ever going to wake up with anything as good as this. I received criticism about my hair when I was first doing the transition and people in my life were getting used to seeing it. But now my friends, my fans, my family, everyone is so used to it. They are very, very supportive, and I very rarely get criticized for it. Question number 8. What is your favorite compliment that you have received about your hair? The number one compliment that I have received about my hair is when somebody tells me that I inspired them to go on their own gray journey. That's the number one compliment. When I see women with beautiful gray hair and I go up and I compliment them on their hair and they turn and they look at me and they go, oh, I went gray because of you. That's the biggest compliment. When people tell me that I inspired them. And when people tell me that I helped give them strength when they go through their own journey to gray, that is the biggest compliment I can get. Question number 9. What is the biggest advice that you can give someone who is beginning their gray hair journey? Set in supplies. Give yourself crutches. You are in for a long haul, and you will have days that this person and this person and this person and this person have all been yammering in your ear, dye your hair, dye your hair, dye your hair, dye your hair, you look old, you look terrible, Mom, I don't like it, honey, I don't like it, and it's too much, and you just get filled with this like, that's it, screw it, I'm done, I'm dyeing it. And it's okay to do that. It is okay to dye your hair. If you try it and you don't like it and you want to dye it for yourself, go for it. But if you've got all those voices, all of other people's voices harping at you, make sure that you have the powders, the gray hair covering powders, the gray hair covering sprays, the gray hair covering mousses. I have discussed all of those on my channel. In fact, I'll put a link for them. But stock up on some of those, depending on how far out in the journey you are. You may need a little bit, you may need a lot. So sometimes the powders are going to work better. Sometimes the mousses are going to look better. Sometimes the sprays are going to work better. Sometimes a scarf. But buy them before you want them. Have them in your cupboard. You know, that $7 investment sitting in your cupboard, when you can't take it anymore, color it in. Go ahead and color it in for a day with the temporary colors to just sort of soothe that feeling inside. Because I've heard so many people listen to others and cave in and dye their hair for other people and immediately regret it and feel terrible about it. And then they have to start the journey all over. So I think that it's wise to have the crutches on hand so that when all those voices are coming at you and you need to preserve your sanity, you can cover it up for a couple of days and see how you feel and quiet those voices. If you decide that the gray hair is not for you and you don't like it, go back to coloring, please. The most important thing is that you please yourself. On that note, this is not one of the questions, but I'm just going to throw in my 2 cents here because I have tons of opinions. There is a big school of thought in the gray hair community that now that your hair is gray, it must be 100% natural. I am not of that school of thought. I think that you should have the gray hair that you want. That may mean that if your hair is very white and you feel it's too light, you may want to have your hairdresser put some low lights in to just give it a little more depth. If your hair is darker and you wish you had a little bit more silver around it, around your face, I wouldn't recommend doing this all over, and I will touch on the reason why. Go ahead and have your hairdresser do some highlights around your face. The reason I suggest being very cautious with those highlights, I had to bleach some of the hair in the front of my face for an acting job several months ago. We did a balayage treatment and had a very nice effect. It blended the wig that I needed for this film in better than it would have blended without it. But because, we've got all these different shades in our hair, even though my hair right on top is like, I've got this white stripe, underneath it's still the blonde and you can see where that balayage was down here and it's a little darker up here. When they had to strip the color out of this hair, that was taking it through the bleaching process, and it goes through all of the shades and gets to the palest blonde, which is still not white, it's still yellow. Then you put a toner on it to achieve more of that gray tone. That hair that got bleached keeps wanting to be yellow. So I am really having to be heavy-handed with the purple shampoo and with toners on that bleached in section. So if you do choose to have any sort of highlights put in, know that that's going to need a little more maintenance. You're going to have to do a little more purple shampoo, a little more of the lavender toners, things of that nature. But I think that you should have the gray that you want. And I think it's okay to manipulate your gray to have the gray that you want. I don't think it has to be perfectly natural. I also highly encourage people to put in some funky colors. Throw in a little purple, throw in a little blue. Those colors fade out to gray, but they can keep you feeling fresh and funky and not old. Just my 2 cents. Maybe my 4 cents. Or 5 or 6 or that may have even been a full quarter. Let's get to number 10. Question number 10. Who is your gray hair idol? There are so many gray hair idols. I don't have any particular one. Cindy Joseph, amazing woman. What she did for our community was so huge. So definitely her. Yasmina Rossi, such beautiful hair. It is just gorgeous. Hillary, Victoria, Nicole. There are so many really stunning, beautiful women with silver hair. And there are so many wonderful shades of silver. You know, there's the salt and pepper, there's the steel, there's the streak, that's what's so wonderful about our silver sisters, is that we are each unique and individual with our gray hair. The shading is always different for all of us, and I think that's so awesome. So I don't have a particular idol. Yeah, I love the women who have the really long, beautiful hair, because I will never have that hair. My hair is baby fine and breaks off, and it's at its max length right now. I've had it a little bit longer, but I ended up cutting it off to right here because it's so fine and see-through. So the women who have just that incredible silver mane, I always look at them and wish, but that's why we have wigs and hair pieces. So those are the 10 questions. So I'm going to tag Victoria Marie, and who else should I tag? You. I tag you. If you have silver hair, whether it's one silver hair, whether it's 3 silver hairs, whether you're halfway through your journey, whether you're all the way through your journey, please answer these questions. Maybe you make a video, maybe you write it out and put it on your Facebook page with a photograph, maybe you do it on your Instagram, maybe you just do it for you. But I think they're great questions to answer, and I think that sharing our experiences with other people who are just starting their experience really, really helps. And let's all help each other. Women empowering women. I love you bunches, and I will talk to you very soon. Rock on, my silver sisters.
Oh, what a good kitty you are. Such a good boy. Such a good boy.